If you felt stuck trying to lose weight, you're not alone. Enter Weight Loss by Hers. It's designed to support you in reaching your goals. And Hers now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill at its lowest price ever and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy at Hers, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first and only GLP-1 available in a pill, so there are no needles needed. Everything is 100% online through Hers. You'll connect with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. And it doesn't stop there. Weight Loss by Hers goes beyond medication by offering access to 24/7 messaging with your care team and tons of in-app lifestyle and nutrition tips like recipes, meal plans, fitness videos, sleep content, and more. Even better, with a range of affordable GLP-1 options, Hers makes it simple to find an approach that fits your needs and your budget if eligible. You'll get a treatment plan personalized to you and unlimited dosage changes as needed. It's weight loss designed to work with your life. Ready to reach your goals? Visit forhers.com/women to get personalized, affordable care that gets you. That's forhers.com/women. forhers.com/women. Based on advertised cash price for 30-day supply of medication only. Membership required. Fee not included, and billed separately. Weight Loss by Hers is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk A.S. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit forhers.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode on Altar Call. I am your host, Tane, here with a brand new episode, doing things a little different today. Not a recap, but it's going to be not an interview, just chatting. And my guest today is known as Liv on Air, your behind the scenes bestie, a former reality TV producer for many shows, many cooking shows, and even our little show MAFS. And we're going to talk about that. She has a podcast that she lovingly calls the Broken Brain Club, where she does deep dives into current show gossips, gives us details on BTS of our favorite shows. And my guest today is Liv. Hi, Liv. How are you?
Hi, Tane. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. What a lovely intro. Thank you.
Oh, yes, it's deserving. Thank you for coming on this show. I came across your content and I almost like wept for joy. That's an exaggeration, but basically I was so happy because it's like, oh my God, this is the answer to all the questions as someone who just like spends a lot of their time watching reality TV shows. So the first question I'm going to ask is, how did you get into reality TV like as a career?
Yes. Great question. And I'm so happy that you're happy to watch it because I feel like I used to see this behind the scenes content of all these like, Game of Thrones and like these big movies. And I was like, there's no behind the scenes content of these reality shows that people also love so much. So I'm glad it's resonating. I got into reality TV the way all good things happen, which is meeting a random man in a bar. I'd been an extra in a music video for a boy band I was obsessed with. I was also a big boy band chaser back in the day. And I remember seeing people on set who were working and I was like, that looks way more fun than what I'm doing, which is like standing in this long line and like having to like be really excited at this concert. So like, maybe I should look into that for a career. I'd failed out of my econ major, so I had no idea what I was doing with my life. And I loved reality TV. And I met this guy in a bar and he was like, oh, I'm working on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And I was like, this is the coolest person I've ever met in my entire life. Like, I didn't even occur to me that I could do that. So we stayed in touch very casually. I would like get coffees when I was down in LA with him. I got an internship in the entertainment industry, classic, working for free as a receptionist at Jennifer Lopez's production company, and just stayed in touch with him. And then he had an opening come up on a show that he was on. He put my name in, and that was my first like PA job. I was logging. So I was literally just live logging the interviews that was happening and taking notes. And then I just never left and just crawled my little way up the ladder as quickly as I could.
That is so cool. But before we go further, I have to know what boy band it was.
Oh, it was Emblem 3, which is embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing.
Deep cut, X Factor America. But I used to follow like One Direction and 5 Seconds of Summer.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with them. And so Emblem 3 was like the tangible one that we could get a little closer to.
Yeah, they were like I was trying to think who it is. Would you say they were the 98 Degrees of the Old Town of like
I think 98 Degrees in terms of relevancy were like they weren't that relevant.
They're relevant.
Lovely guys though. Ended up like hanging out with them one night, which was like very, when I was like 21, I was like, this is my peak. Anyway, Emblem 3.
That's pretty cool. So can you walk us through like what shows you've been on?
Absolutely.
Like some of the shows that we would know.
Yes. So I started in for that first company I worked for is actually Kinetic Content, which now produces Love is Blind and Married at First Sight, but at the time was doing much smaller reality shows. So we did a show called 7 Year Switch, which is now The Ultimatum, just rebranded. Yes. I worked. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, it was the same people. Was it not FYI, but in that channel,
those same network. So they sold a bunch of small cable shows to them. So I worked on that. I did Little Women LA for a long time, which is like Housewives but with little people.
Yeah, don't worry, Liv. I watched them all.
Oh, great! Yeah, I did 3 seasons of LA. Okay. So I started in those smaller shows and then worked my way up to the bigger stage shows, which is what I actually loved them all for different reasons, but then I started working on American Idol and World of Dance and Dancing with the Stars in the back half of my career.
Okay. So are you still working in reality TV right now?
I'm not. I left in like 2021. Yeah. Post-COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Pivoted. I do something very similar. I work for like a branded content creative production company, so we make a lot of stuff for tech companies, but I don't actually work in.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like you went to competitive, would you say?
Reality
TV.
They're traditionally called shiny floor shows because they have a literal black shiny floor, which was very fun. Yeah, fun and different, and just like a different brain part of producing for those types of shows.
Yeah. So which did you prefer?
I loved both for different reasons. I think World of Dance was one of my favorite shows because it's filmed on the Universal Studios lot, which was just, I remember going on there as tours as a kid. So to get to go there to work every day and drive on the lot and like walk past the people on the tram who were paying to do a tour there, like that was just very fun. I got to take my parents, around the lot on a golf cart and get to do the whole behind the scenes tour. Like that's just, that's hard to replicate. But I loved them all for different reasons and learned so much from all of them.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. They're just having like front row seats to that.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where to start from because there's like a gazillion questions, but I will start with my number one question that I always have, which is confessionals. You would think that by now I would know how they're filmed. And I know you talk a little bit about this on your podcast, but for those who are listening and do not know, can you walk us through the process of a confessional and how many days, how long does it take? Why are there different looks? Are they watching stuff? How do they remember what is happening?
Yeah, so fair. And such a common question because I think people are always like, how are they crying when this happened after?
Yes.
Like, how is that happening? These confessionals are often filmed in a few different ways, depending on the style of the show. So like on a show like Love is Blind, you'll see they have 2 different types. They have the seated interviews where they're on the set and it's this big sit down thing and they're having this big long interview introducing themselves and saying who they are and their experience with blah, blah, blah. And then they also have the much more casual ones, which we call like OTFs, on the flies, where they're, where they're sitting in bed or they're at the edge of the pool or they're somewhere much more casual, and that you're filming as soon as the scene is over. So you're like, it's just happened. Tell us what's running through your head. Tell us how you're feeling. Recap for the viewers what's going on. The sit down confessionals that you'll see that are more formal, like in a Housewives show, are often done a few times throughout the season. So generally you'll let them film for like 2 to 3 weeks and then you'll do your first full sit down interview, and the producer is walking them through what they want them to talk about in the interview. So you prep for that interview, you have the questions, and we're not showing them clips because people get very, very distracted by clips because they think, I don't like how I look, or like, what are people going to think of? That's not how I remember this. I don't like that. I don't want that to air. Instead, it's the producer walking them through it. And part of what's so important in these shows is that producer relationship, like there being a lot of trust between the cast and the producer, because they have to trust the producer to want to be vulnerable with them, to want to show their emotions. So the producer's job is really to get them back in that moment and feel those emotions again, and let the viewer in to share that. So it's set up a few different ways, but that's how like a traditional sit down interview goes, and then in OTF. And then sometimes also when you're doing the sit down interview, as the show progresses and post starts, post might send you pickup lines to get from the cast. So they'll say, oh, we actually didn't cover this well. Like, can you get a pickup line having her introduce that they're going to this event or whatever it is. So that's why sometimes you also notice that they're not in the right outfit they should be for that episode.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. So in the part where someone recalls something completely different and they're saying it and they're completely wrong, do they ever like roll the beautiful bean footage and say, hey, but you're wrong?
Yes. Oh gosh, sorry. We definitely do that sometimes, but if you're going to show them the clip, you generally want to see them watching it, if that makes sense. Like you'll give it to them on a phone, or you give it to them on a laptop to like get their live reaction of them reacting to it. But also you can sometimes verbally just remind them. You can be like, that's, remember you actually were really nervous because remember we talked right outside about how you didn't know how they were going to handle that you planned this date and you were a little nervous. Like, you can also help them, because sometimes it is just a genuine lapse where they're like, you know, I've been through a lot these past few weeks, and you can't help them remember of what actually happened.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned like the confessionals, and I was thinking of a show, Survivor, which I just want to say, like, I love your story when you talked about it, like postpartum. It is a postpartum hack, guys. Liv said that you should associate your baby with a show when you're like, you know, just watching a show. And I love that your show is Survivor because I love Survivor. They know that already.
It's so good.
I know you haven't worked on it before, but how do you think I've always been curious about how the confessionals are filmed, because I'm like, if someone finds an idol, like how's the cameras there, they're talking, and like how is the logistics of all of that with so many people on the island also?
Yeah. I think they're getting pulled for interviews really frequently. So I think there's I know I also wonder about this for when people are searching for idols and they're gone. They're gone for so long, and I'm like, how do they know they're not gone? Because they're doing one of their big sit down interviews. So like maybe my guess is that the producers are very open about when they're pulling people. They're saying, hey, we're pulling Christian for the next hour. We're going to go take him to do his interview. Like maybe they're having that conversation with the cast that when people are gone looking for idols, they are like, I know they're not with production because production tells us when they're leaving is my guess. And I do think often when they find those idols, they make sure that they're, you know, they're not going to ask them to talk if there's people right there.
Yeah. And then another show that I love is The Challenge. Another thing I wonder is like when they're doing all these hard things, climbing up a mountain, running through the rocks, how is the cameraman doing that? Like what is happening in that?
They're athletes in and of themselves. And sometimes there is like, I'd say when they're running, most of the time they're in a car. So you're shooting out like the back of a car or something, or like which isn't always the safest, but I think they've gotten better with safety measures. But like, you know, you're getting a car where you can strap the camera operator and they're shooting out the back of a car versus having them actually run with them. But also some of them are legitimately athletes who like can carry these really heavy cameras and shoot at the same time and also be competing in these physical challenges. Yeah. Nuts.
That's crazy. Because the last season, the final was up the mountain and they were like, the elevation was killing them. And I'm like, is this happening right now? So,
yeah. Okay. And they're not carrying any camera gear, unlike the rest of the crew.
Wow. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to talk about cast trips. That's like also the number one thing. I know every time I've been to BravoCon a couple of times and people are always asking, and I feel like I still have more questions on that. So when they say, I'll give a specific example. Do you watch Beverly Hills?
I don't.
Okay.
Worst. I watch Potomac and Salt Lake City, but I know most roughly about Beverly Hills.
Okay. I think like recently Rachel was like, hey, Dorit, hey, Kyle, let's go to the Hamptons. And they're acting like, I can make it happen. I'll do whatever it has to take. They already know they're going on that. It's not a huge cast trip, which I believe they already know. But for like a fly trip like that, I think Sutton wanted to visit her mom and she took Kyle and Garcelle on the trip. How does that work? Is that already planned also, or is it really on the fly?
9 times out of 10, it's planned.
Okay.
And especially when they're going out of the country or they're going for a week, or it's all like them going to Italy this last season, or like that obviously is very, very pre-planned. I do think on a show like Beverly Hills, where they have a lot of disposable income, and them showing off that they have that disposable income is an important part of like the fabric of the show. There's a chance, I think, that, Rachel Zoe is like, I can take a few girls with me to the Hamptons. I have a house. You guys can film in the house. That the network might be able to move that along quickly. But there is a certain amount of lead time they need in order to be able to like get the permits to shoot there, make sure the crew has lodging there, hire any locals they need to. Like there does have to be some lead time. So any really spontaneous things I would be very wary of.
So things like when they upgrade to first class, I think we've had a storyline where someone couldn't upgrade and they didn't sit in first class. Why is production not paying for that?
Production is cheap, girl. Ooh. They are cheap, which is, I've actually, sometimes when I know camera operators and crew that won't go in like a helicopter. If production's ever booking a helicopter, I've had crew be like, I will not get in that helicopter because I don't
blame them.
Or like, getting the best one, you're getting the cheapest one. I'm like, I don't want to risk my life, which like totally fair enough. No, I mean, they these budgets are tight. Whether that's fair or not is a different question, but they are like part of what makes reality so successful is that they're a lot cheaper to shoot than a scripted show. And part of that is the talent, but part of it is also how it's produced. That my working theory is that I think they have like a most favored nations policy in all of their contract, where it's like you are getting economy fare tickets, and that's what it is. And if you want to pay to upgrade, all you go for it. But like we're not going to play that game with every person, because it is, it's a 10x difference for the most part if they're going somewhere. So I think the rule for almost all of them is we'll pay for your economy, and if you want to upgrade, it's on you.
Okay.
I used to just go with whatever meat looked good or was on sale at the grocery store. But now that I've experienced the exceptional quality, flavor, and convenience that you can get from Omaha Steaks, I'm never going back. They can build a custom food plan based on your schedule, which means less food waste and stocking up on high-quality proteins to always have on hand. With Omaha Steaks in your freezer, you're always just minutes away from a quality dinner. Whether it's Taco Tuesday or a weekend feast. Taste the Omaha Steaks difference and never settle for grocery proteins again. Get flavorful, high-quality proteins delivered by visiting omahasteaks.com. Plus $35 off when you use promo code YUM at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, code YUM. Terms apply. See site for details. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code YUM at checkout for $35 off. Minimum purchase may apply.
So what is the plan and the process for you're going to host a trip, you're not going to host a trip, and if you host a trip, I'm going to get the house? Because recently on Potomac, Giselle was like, oh, I'm just going to book the hotel. I have this.
Oh my gosh.
What is behind the scenes on all of that?
I feel so bad for Angel, actually, I think she really got put in a tough position. And I'm so glad you're interested in this, because I did a full episode on cast trips, because this stuff is so fascinating. But I think for the most part, you're figuring out what the trip is going to be in pre-production. And sometimes who's going to lead it, but most of the time it's just like, we're going to get all the girls to go to Hawaii. But like Salt Lake City, where they're going to Greece, like, that Angie's going to lead that because she's Greek, and that's her whole thing, is that, they want to go. So like that makes sense. But for the most part, you might leave it open and say, we know we're going to get all the girls to Mexico. We don't know who's going to lead it or how it's going to get there, but we're going to make sure they can all go to Mexico this week, and we'll figure it out as we start filming. So then you start filming, and as you get closer to it, you want to find someone who makes sense to invite everyone. So you don't want to have someone leading it who's in a fight with everyone, because it wouldn't make any sense story-wise for them to say, I've actually decided to forgive everyone and invite them all on this trip. Like that doesn't land as well. So you need to find someone who makes sense to bring everyone, because the network's paying a lot for the trip. Yeah. So they want everyone there as much as they can.
Okay. Do you watch Southern Charm?
I do, but I'm not all the way caught up.
Okay, but it will make sense. You don't need to be cut up for my question. They recently went to Mexico. They
Mm-hmm.
had Shep lead the trip.
Oh boy.
Rodrigo was right there. Rodrigo gave us a story saying, like, listen, I don't really speak the language. I don't really know much, but I do want to know more. Why would production choose Shep to do the story versus Rodrigo having that story and saying, like, you know what? I want to go learn more about, where I'm from or my heritage and then take them on that trip because that
You,
was just a head scratcher for me.
you should be a producer because that sounds like a way more compelling story. I imagine it's probably just like Shep is a bigger star on the show and they wanted to throw him a bone or something. Would literally be my guess is that he's a bigger star, which is unfortunate, but probably
It's
true.
unfortunate. And I know he travels a lot. I mean, I know that's the angle. It's like he's well traveled, but
Yeah.
it's an opportunity. Southern Charm has all these allegations. Like it was just an opportunity to just use that. And that was
seems
just,
like an easy one. Come on,
yes,
guys.
yes. And they let Rodrigo tell that story, but they didn't. Okay. I wanted to go more about Potomac. Like I know we feel bad about Angel, but what is your whole take on that? When the producers made it there and Angel wasn't there anything that we could do to rally to get her to the right place? Like that was confusing.
That was a bizarre, like that stumped me from a logistics perspective. I was like, how did no one know? How did they not bring them? How did they not solve that? How did they not see that coming? Because surely there was a producer with Angel's car, right? Because she has GoPros in her car. So there's often a producer following and listening to what they're saying because you want to know what's going on. But I think maybe they were just in such a remote area that they kept losing phone service. And that really was just reality playing out. Like that's my only guess because that stumped me. And when they were filming at the side of the gas station with all the other girls, I was like, they had to clear that on the spot. That was not planned. Bravo would never be like, yes, plan to go stop at a gas station. Like they had to just make that up on the fly and get permission on the fly for sure.
And why did they end on that note? We don't know if they made their flight. Why didn't they tell us if they made their flight?
They probably like ran out of crew and like we're gonna hit OT and we're like we'll just get on the plane. Yeah, it's not worth the expense. That would be my guess. But yeah, I felt like they didn't set Angel up for success on that trip, so I did actually feel bad for her.
Is it true that you can tell when production doesn't like a talent?
I don't think so. Because I've worked with talent that were terrible to work with, but were great on the show. And I think ultimately the network will always choose to make the most compelling version of the show they can. And that doesn't, how they treat production doesn't factor into that, you know? Yeah. It can be annoying and it can definitely be like, you know, we need to, Lisa Barlow's always 2 hours late. So that's an extra cost that we have to be aware of if we're going to hire her. Like that, I think is very real, but you don't get to bring your grievances into the edit bay and like air them out. And the network's like, looks great. They're like, this is not at all how we saw this going. Like, this is a favorite character. Like, what is the, like, it just, you don't get to air your grievances using the network's money, unfortunately.
Okay. I'll tell you why I say that. Up until the most recent season, I always say that I felt like production didn't like Wendy. And for many reasons, they brought someone who was basically a similar prototype to her with Nneka. And I didn't understand that. I'm Nigerian as well. And I'm just like, they brought her and she just had like no story, or her story was exactly Wendy. And I didn't get what that was about. And then the hot mic moment. And then the flashbacks when, especially now that she was accused of something, and it was like they always had the way it was presented. It seemed like it was focused on, I have so much money and I'm spending it, knowing everything that was going on. Again, it could be because we know now that she's going through something similar and I'm nitpicking. But even before that, I felt like they didn't like her and they didn't air her like in the best light. And I don't know that she was the most beloved, but that's why I asked that question.
I do think it's possible that like they need someone to be a specific character and they're kind of pushing them towards that direction. I think that is very possible. Where the network's like, we kind of see her as this other way that we kind of need her to fit that mold that we have in our heads. Like that is very possible if you're picking up on that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I like the little tidbits on your pod when you mentioned something like not wanting a private room in the restaurants,
Yeah.
because then it's like it seems very clear that this was planned. You want it to seem like, hey, let's have lunch,
Yeah.
let's talk about this. So now they always have background people in the
Yes.
restaurants who seem unmoved when water is thrown, when people are yelling, and they're just like, it's a regular day. Please tell me, are these paid actors, or were they told ahead of time, like, guys, there might be a fight, do not react?
They're not paid actors.
Oh my God.
They can sometimes be members of production, but I think generally if you're seeing a crowded restaurant, it's 9 times out of 10, it really is the people who are just sitting there. And you go up to them and you say, hey, we're actually going to be filming a show here. We might catch you in the background. Are you okay to sign this release?
Okay.
You don't prep them because you actually want them. Like if you can get a bystander looking like horrified at something that the cast is doing, like that's actually great. Like we love that if we can get that. I think it's just like in the moment, there's so many other things happening. Like people get numb to the cameras very fast. So like when you first come in with cameras, people are like, whoa, like pulling out their phone, like what's happening? So they will initially do that, but we strategically cut around that in the edit because we don't want to, we try to get around that as much as possible because it breaks the fourth wall of it all. But then people get over it really fast. And like people do, especially in LA, people are so used to people being crazy in restaurants, but like they will react, but like less than you would think. Like if you were out to dinner and someone was being crazy next to you, you're not going to be like, oh, what's going on? Can I get in there? You're kind of like, oh, like I just want to keep my distance a little bit from this. And like,
I might live. I don't know. I might. So I might be like, what's up?
What's going on? But yeah, that you don't prep them, and it is real people. People are just unfazed, and sometimes there is like a wall of like cameras and other things going on that they can't really see what's happening unless it's like a really, really big blow up. And that's not like an intentional wall we build, but like there's just a lot happening and there's light stands everywhere and there's crew and like you might just kind of miss it, honestly.
So what is the solution when people whip out their phones?
You will ask them to put them down. Which you can't, you can just be like, oh, so sorry. This is actually like a confidential set. Like, can you put your phone away? Which you can't actually stop them from doing. But you can try. And then on bigger shows, they often have security if they're going into and then those people are a little more intimidating than like, an associate producer being like, hi, would you mind not doing that? And people are like, you can't stop me. Yeah. Yeah.
This leads me to ask, what are your thoughts on the state of reality TV now where everyone is speaking while the season is on? We're getting leaks ahead of time. We're knowing what the storyline is. I, for one, I don't want to know. Sometimes I don't watch previews because I don't want to know what's happening. When I read books, I go in blind. I'm a person who just surprised me. And now it seems like even talent, they're going on their podcast. Everyone's talking. Love is Blind. They're doing interviews before the reunion is even out, because then what is the point of the reunion? What do you think about all of that? Are they looking at it, and I say they by production, as it helps the show in publicity and so it doesn't matter?
So most of the time the cast have a clause in their contract that says they can't do any appearances, like media appearances, unless the network signs off on it. So like if a Love is Blind person is going on a podcast to talk about the season, almost certainly the network has said, yes, we think this is a good idea. This will help PR the show. It'll help bring more eyes to it. That's their PR strategy for that reason. I do wonder though, with as popular as social media has become, is if they will try to turn around these edits faster because, Bravo specifically is so picky in post. And I think Netflix now has a similar rep that these shows, we're watching Summer House now. It was filmed 9 months ago. I do think it's pressuring them to kind of tighten that timeline between when the episodes actually come out because, so they leak everything. They talk about everything before it comes out.
I just thought it would be tighter. I don't know why they get to speak. And this brings me to the rules that they have for talent. How are people able to skip reunions? Or most recently, people come on reunions and say, I didn't watch the season. It pisses me off.
I guess you can't hold them down and make them watch the season, but I think
put it in a contract.
I know. And I think it honestly depends, which I know is an annoying answer, but I think for a lot of them, they get paid to be at the reunion. So if someone's not coming, they've decided that they don't want to get paid. And you might be able to contractually enforce them to come, but this is the tricky part with reality TV where it's like, I can, make you come and make you do this interview, but that doesn't mean that you're going to give me anything that's actually usable or good. Like you can just say, I'm here, I'm fulfilled, I'll answer your questions, but like, I'm not actually going to tell you anything interesting. And then they're technically fulfilling their contract, but they're not actually giving you anything you can use. So it's tough.
Nini. Towards the end.
Yeah, really. She was so over it.
Yeah, she was. Let's switch gears to Below Deck. Are you watching the most current season?
I am. I'm maybe 2 episodes behind, but I'm it's the Down Under season, which they've just decided Down Under doesn't mean anything.
Down Under doesn't.
They're not even Down Under anymore. But yes, I'm watching Down Under.
We got Captain Jason. We're Down Under.
Yeah. He's like, I'm Australian. I'm like, sure, fine.
My question, we're fine because it's the beginning. The whole Alicia, Ellie switcheroo.
Yes.
Why the hell didn't we just send that girl home and girl and Alicia? Because she's annoying me so much. And it was like, she's whining about everything. She wants to be a chef, but didn't go to culinary school, and is not improving her skills. And we're moving her around. Like, I know it's for the drama, but tell us what you know about like the casting for Below Deck, especially.
Yeah, that decision also I found was so bizarre because Ella, what's her name?
Ellie.
Ellie. She's never worked a day in her life in the galley. I'm like, how does this make any? That's where I was really like, seems so heavy-handed by production that the captain would be like, we'll have this person come in who has no galley experience. We'll put him in the galley. Like, why? Like, that just seemed so heavily produced to me. I don't know why they did it, honestly. It was a weird choice. I agree with you. I was like, this feels so bizarre to the show's, fabric of being, which I've actually heard that show of the many Bravo shows is one of the lightest in production. Like they don't step in as much. They really do let them just like go. And it's much more hands off than your other reality shows. But yeah, I thought that was also a bizarre choice. Maybe they just thought she was a great character and thought she was going to be more interesting. I haven't found her to be most interesting, but
Alicia or Ellie?
Alicia. I think Ellie's obviously like she's a lunatic, but she's great TV. No, you can't doubt that.
So I guess going back, do you think that was pre-planned? Like it was like we're gonna move Alicia around, or it was just that was the natural progression of things? Because to me, it felt like we have to get Ellie in anyways, and this is the way we're going to get her in. I don't think it was pre-planned, but I think they likely had a conversation with Ellie, and I think they do this with returning cast where they're like, in the chance we would want you to come back, are you available? And they kind of pre-negotiate with them because I think statistically speaking, someone ends up being fired. Someone ends up not working out, whether it's a deck or a stew or a chef or whoever. I think they do have a contingency plan, knowing that they're going to want to replace them with someone who's film friendly, who they can get there really fast. So I do think they have like, either the next round of the cast that they didn't go with or a returning cast member, and then they can decide who to pull in. So I don't think it was pre-planned, but I do think they talked to Ellie before the season started, for sure. Okay. I have a slightly what some may consider an inappropriate question, but it is what it is. It goes across all shows, but I thought about it for Below Deck because for Below Deck is such close quarters, and we get to see them, sleep. We get to see them change their clothes when they have to change into their, what do they call it, white stripes or whatever it's called. And I just got to think, because sometimes they sleep in their underwear and they're filming, they have that camera overhead. We have such out there characters on Below Deck. What if one of them decides they're going to jerk off and stuff? Is the footage just there with the producers and they just have, they're not going to air it obviously, but they have it. They have to watch people.
They have it all. So like when they hook up, like they fully have that. And they often they're watching those live surveillance cameras, right? Like they're in the boat, they're watching this all happen, and they have little tiles of all the surveillance cameras so they can see what's happening. And they're fully like, oh, those two are having sex. And like, I think everyone's not like, oh, let's watch it. You're kind of like, whoa, just move along. But yeah, I mean, I think, and also like they know cameras are there. So I would hope if someone was going to do that, they would go to the shower. But no, that footage does absolutely exist for sure.
And this is my bi-weekly, you guys hear me say this all the time. Kudos to everyone who does reality TV because it is not for the faint of heart.
I agree. I could never do it.
Yeah. Okay. Switching to cooking shows. Do you watch Culinary Class Wars?
I don't. That's the new one, right? With Padma?
No. Sorry. No. Hers is America's Culinary Cup. Culinary Class Wars is the Korean one. It's fine on Netflix. And I was just going to say that because I wanted to know if you were in awe of how it was produced. It's such a large scale. And I had so many questions about that. But
I haven't seen it. I love a Korean cooking show though. My husband also loves those shows, so we'll watch that.
Yes, check it out. There are 2 seasons, and Culinary Class Wars is so good. But the cooking shows, how do they stock their pantries? It seems like filled with everything they might need, every accessory, every gadget. Like, how does that work? And it's fresh.
They have a culinary producer who is in charge of exactly that. And their team is in charge of shopping for everything, making sure everything's stocked. They also often will practice the challenges for them if they need them to be like, can we actually do this in an hour and a half or whatever it is? And one of the first shows I worked on was a cooking show, and it was the best because I was making $100 a day. And at the end of the shoot, they would have all this leftover produce where, because they have to buy everything because they might need 100 onions, they might need 5 onions.
Yeah.
They overbuy so much. And also they want it to look pretty on the show. So they buy all this fresh stuff and then they would just give it to the crew at the end of the day. So I was like, I don't have to buy groceries this week. This is amazing. They have someone in charge of that entire department whose job is to shop all that stuff and make sure that every cook has, what they've agreed upon
what they need.
They'll have. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they have a conversation with them and it's like, hey, I might need, because it seems like whatever the challenge is going to be, it's on the fly. So they don't know. But what if someone wants this one random ingredient that.
I think that they don't get it. They have a standard list of here's what's going to be in the pantry. Your standard XYZ, but specialty. I think on Top Chef it is. They're maybe later in the season, they're allowed to bring a couple specialty ingredients with them, for the finale. But they won't go if you're like, I need this one specific thing for this quick fire or whatever. They're like, no, you have to use what's in the pantry.
Yeah. Okay. And then for Summer House,
yes,
there's so much going on that I'm just going to let them have their drama until we know if they're in on it or if they're not, because there's way too much speculation that's going on. So what I'm interested in is why do they make them drive every weekend versus getting cars? I want to say maybe it's for the conversation and they might pick up on that, but it's usually just a snippet. It's not really a major storyline, I feel, but is that the reason why?
I have a theory.
Okay.
I think most importantly, it keeps the illusion of we're all staying in a share house. These are our friends. We're just driving up for the weekend. So I think that is a very important part of it. I think sometimes that a PA takes over though and drives them, and that they don't actually drive the whole way. That they start the drive, they get the conversation beats they need, and then they let them sit in the back for the rest of the drive. Is my
oh my God, I love that theory because that is a lot. Friday to Sunday, Monday, every week after work.
Too much, yeah. And traffic. I think the cast wouldn't go for that. So I think there's, because when you're filming someone in a car, you have a follow car behind them you're listening to them talk and being like, actually, can you talk about this? And we need to cover this and make sure blah. So I think there's probably an extra junior producer or an AP or a PA in that car. And they, after they've done their beats, they say, pull over and we'll let blah, blah, blah drive for you. That's my theory.
Yeah. Okay. I like your theory. We'll go with that. So production producers, they get a bad rep. It is what it is. When anything happens, it's it's producers. They did this, they did that. When you worked as a producer, did you ever feel guilty?
I did sometimes. Yeah, there were definitely moments. I think 7 Year Switch in particular, which I know you're familiar with. I didn't. That one was a bit weird for me
Yeah.
And
they were early.
it was early. Yeah. And I was young and it was weird. I do think, on these shows, you really can't say that people know what they're getting into now for the most part. But there were definitely moments where I was like, I don't love this right now. Should I? But, yeah. I think a lot of careers can have a gray area though, where I'm like,
that's true.
This influencer selling me this thing that they don't actually use, like that's in their best interest, not mine. But, so I think there's gray area in most things that people are making money off of.
Yes, I agree. I mean, you said something interesting, like most people don't know what they're getting into, because that is the argument people always say, well, they know what they're signing up for. It's reality TV. And it's just tricky because, again, the reason I wouldn't do it is because of all the things I've heard, of all the things they say about reality TV. And I think you said on an episode that maybe the reality reckoning might be a good thing to happen on reality TV. And I keep wondering, I don't know if we, the audience, we reality TV show lovers are ready for what that really truly means, because in some way we're complicit. I mean, we like to say this person did that person did that, but we're also part of it.
I totally agree. I think, and I like the America's Next Top Model documentary was such a good conversation starter, because I was like, we all loved this at the time. And yes, like they made these choices to do these outlandish things, but there was part of it that was because the viewers that's what we would tune into, was the crazy stuff. And I know you said you don't like mess, but most people do like mess. And that's what the data consistently shows, is that people want to watch people argue for whatever reason. So it's we'll have to change. If our viewing patterns were different, they wouldn't produce shows
do
like
that. Yeah. Let me clarify. I like mess, but not like my number one reason. If I'm watching a dating show, I want the love and mess balanced out, not like
that's
complete mess. Like where Love is Blind is headed, and it's like, I just want them to fall in love. That's all.
Still fair. You need some good love stories in there to make that's totally fair. I agree with that.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about your time on MAFS. How did you, you were working for Kinetic at that time and you got approached just to do MAFS? Was that?
Yes, I was working in the office and they were like, hey, do you want to go live in Atlanta for 6 weeks? We'll pay you nothing and you'll work 6 days a week. And I was like, 100% yes, sign me up. And it was my first like associate producer role, which was so fun. I had the best time, and I love Atlanta so much, and like met some amazing people there. But yeah, I came right after the weddings because I think they'd fired someone that I was replacing.
Oh, sucks for them. Yay for you.
I don't know what happened there. But I came right after the weddings and was there through the whole experiment and then through their final decision, which was crazy.
Were you assigned a person or you were just...
I was with a couple. I was with Sam and Neil.
You got them?
Yes.
Ooh. Okay. So what is casting like? One of the number one questions on MAFS is like the matchmaking. Do the experts really do it, or do the producers do the matchmaking?
I do think the experts have a very heavy hand in the initial selects. Especially with the concept of that show being like you're being scientifically matched. Like that was such a big part of it.
Yeah.
Was that's how they were getting people to say yes to marriage, was like these experts in science are doing it. So you should say yes to it because it's like these experts have done all this work and blah, blah. And I do think a lot of that is very, very real. Yeah. Ultimately, in any show, those final decisions will always be with the producers and with the network. So I think most likely the experts are saying, we think these few girls and these few gals, they're these guys and these girls would be great matches. And the network's kind of like, let's do these ones, is my guess on how that works.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was the season where they gave them money to find a place to rent to live. I'm seeing Vanessa and Trey do that in my brain.
Oh my God, I forgot about, wow, Vanessa was so beautiful. What is she doing now?
She's in LA, I want to say. Yes. She did the spinoff with David.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I don't remember those specifics, but I do remember Yes, they did move in. There was a house rented
Yeah. Yeah.
that we
I think
filmed in.
yeah, I think I was gonna ask, like, did they come up with a house for them, or did they really have to look for one? Because looking for a place to live is a bitch. So I don't know how they would have done
Totally.
that.
It's mostly production would be finding them options because it also
Okay.
has to be film friendly and only specific places can sign off to being film friendly. Like if someone
Hmm.
says, if they're like, we found this great apartment and they won't let you film in it, then that's a non-starter. So I think it's mostly production. I don't actually remember how that worked, but I like it would be production saying, here's a few options. What do
Yeah.
you think? And them saying
Okay.
yay or nay.
How did it feel? Okay, did you know the decision that Neil was gonna make before he
We didn't actually know what either of them were going to say.
Really? That's interesting. For those of you who didn't watch for season 3, the summary of it all is that Samantha was really, 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 really mean to Neil and basically saying he was not a man. And then on decision day, she had to turn around, said yes, and Neil was like, nope, thank you. And we're like, yeah.
Yes, he said, but he would not tell us his answer.
Good for him.
And that's part of why she stormed off and got so upset, and she went to a car that wasn't lit, and that was really bad because we couldn't see her face.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know that she was going to run away because we didn't know if he was. We didn't know that he was going to say no, and she was going to run.
How do you deal with talent when they're not giving you what you need from them?
It's tough, and it depends on the show. I think shows like Married at First Sight, you are really leaning into the experiment part of the show and, reminding them that they came here for a reason and that this is all going to help with their growth and that they need to, they want to open up on this part of the journey and let people in because that's why they came here in the first place. Whereas on a show where the cast has been around a little longer and it's a bit more docu-soapy, more like a Summer House or a Housewives,
yeah,
you can be as blunt as being like, hey, you guys aren't being interesting right now. This is not going to be a good scene. Like, what can we do to change that?
Yeah.
It really depends on the show, and also depends on the style of the producer and what you think the cast will respond best to.
That makes sense. So it's basically like it's different if it's like a one-off, like we're never going to see this MAFS again, or like a Housewives where it's a continued,
Yeah. Are they trained to be on TV, or are they really just like, deer in the headlights?
Yeah,
what's going to happen?
Okay. My final MAFS question is, are there incentives to say yes, or like Love is Blind to make it to the altar or something?
I don't know for sure. But I think on Love is Blind, my guess is that there's they get a payment for going to the altar. Like they get, I believe they get episodic payments, and getting to the altar is another episodic payment that they get. So if they don't go to the altar, they don't get that extra payment.
Okay.
Is my guess, because otherwise I'm like, why are all these people doing this? Because this is like a lot of work. So I think it has to be money is my guess.
Okay. They need to offer them more money. A pet peeve of mine is not making it to the altar. It's literally called Love is Blind, and the show premise is making it to the altar. So when people are dropping out, I'm like, yeah, I get it. You respect them. Yay. But make it to the altar and I guess respect them at the altar.
Tell them not the altar. No, I totally agree. And I think in the earlier seasons, they were more successful with everyone making it to the altar, but also maybe now they're just following more couples. So I guess hard to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my guess. And then I've also, this is alleged, can't confirm. But you know how on Love is Blind, they'll all break up at the same time. I don't know if you've noticed that. They'll be like, so my understanding is that the network will cover their cost of divorce up to a certain point, which helps incentivize them to say yes, because if they say yes in that moment, they aren't on the hook for paying for their divorce. So they can say yes, they encourage them to get married without being on the hook for that divorce payment. Like I think Alexis and the guy who had the kid together who just divorced. What's her name?
Amber.
No.
Amber and from Dallas?
Yes. I can't remember.
Alexis.
And that I don't think they got their divorce paid for, because I think it'd been too long.
Yeah,
there was a season where a couple people who had stayed together they announced at the same time, and I think that is because they're coming to the point where the network won't pay for their divorce anymore. And they're saying, we're not going to proceed. So we're going to have the network pay for this divorce, which I think makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, now that makes sense. I was thinking you meant within the show, and I was thinking it was like a domino effect, like when these people are unhappy and they're sharing, and someone's like, "No, I want to go," and they're like, "Oh my God, he's free. I want to be free too. I'm gonna be divorced." Okay, have you kept up with MAFS? Now, did you watch the new version?
No, but I've heard it's crazy in Australia specifically is where I've heard it's really gone off. Yeah,
Australia's always off the rails.
Yeah. It seems like the format has gone much more like Love is Blind-esque, where they're all hanging out together after.
Okay, so for Australia, right? That is pure mess. Do not go there looking for love. Even I don't go there looking for love, because that is not. They're going there to be famous. It's very obvious. Like there's a pipeline. Yeah. They go on there, they cheat on each other, they do musical chairs, they date each other, and it's just a hot mess over there. But it's more couples. It's 11, and they have a completely different format because they meet. I like their format because they meet, and every week they have a dinner party. It's also 4 episodes a week, Sunday to Wednesday. So they have a dinner party every week where everyone talks about all the reasons they're mad at each other. Then they have a commitment ceremony in front of the experts. So even the dinner party, the experts are not part of it. They're just watching and taking notes. Then the commitment ceremony, then each of them come up to the couch and then they talk about all their things. Then you have to say if you want to stay or leave. So you can leave every week. But if one person says stay, even if the other says leave, you have to stay.
Oh,
yeah. So it's pretty.
I kind of want to watch it.
It's pretty fun. Well, it's just a lot of episodes. I think that's what deters a lot of people, and it's just hard to find here. So I'm watching, but I'm watching with Waze. So yeah. But the one here with Peacock, I think the new season is probably going to lean towards that because all the experts are gone now. We don't know if they're completely removing the experts or if we're getting new experts. We know nothing. So
I think they're going to get new, younger, messier experts. I think they have to have experts on the show because I think that, again, that science matchmaking part is an important part of it. So I think they'll have to, I think they'll just hire, slightly messier ones than like the very sweet Dr. Pepper.
I wondered if they were going to get people that were known. I don't want to say famous.
Yeah.
Because that would drive up the budget, but just people who have household names or something.
Or like an influencer doctor type scenario for sure. I think we'll see some of those kicking around for sure.
Okay. I'm open to change.
Yeah. Optimism. It's gonna be great. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good pivot in the sense that the show's viewership here was so down, and they've had such success with Love is Blind that I think they're trying to replicate it. So yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll watch it together, find out.
Yes. I mean, I wish it success. I was kind of disappointed with last season on Peacock. I don't feel they had the splash. There was no water cooler moments. No one was really like, there was a pregnancy and they chose to reveal that in the preview. And I didn't understand why they didn't make that a mic drop. I mean, it's a sensitive situation, but at the time we didn't know because she eventually, lost the kid. But I mean, like, we've never had someone get pregnant during the experiment, but they revealed that to us in the previews even before the season aired. And I'm like, maybe that's why they didn't do that, now that I think about it, because of how it ended up.
They knew how it ended. Yeah. But still, wow. That's why. Are they still together, that couple? Oh, no. Boy.
Yeah. No, they're not. So.
Wow.
Okay, so we'll see. So we will wrap up the episode with some listener questions that I got. And the first one was, how do individual producers get assigned to cast members? Are they paired up at random, or is there a more deliberate process to match them?
There's often a more deliberate process on shows where you are assigned to a cast or a team. So like sometimes it'll be, a discussion with leadership of like, this is actually our most senior producer and we think this is going to be the toughest cast. So they're going to go together. or, they have this really specific background that's going to click really well with these casts. So we're going to assign them, but it's definitely a thoughtful thing, specifically with the main producer who's going to like hold their relationship and lead their interviews. You're definitely deliberately assigning them, whether it's based on, that you'll think they'll get along the best, or you think they have the most in common, or just purely a skill level thing.
Okay. All right. How, if at all, are producers involved with casting and editing?
It depends. There are casting producers, but they don't often go into the field. So casting, generally, you're not a part of by the time you're brought on. The show is cast and you're in pre-production and you're ready to go. So there's not a lot of crossover there, but there can be a crossover between the field producers and the producers in post, which I think is always the best kind of producer because you're thinking about the edit while you're in the field. But a story producer in reality TV, ideally is they're actually cutting the episode. So they do actually put together the bones of it, and then it goes to edit. And the editor makes it really like, they put in the music, they put in the right B-roll, they help heighten the story and really put that like beautiful polish on it that really makes it so good. But the story producer is generally like, this is the story we want to tell. We want to highlight this arc for this person. We want to show this person on the down in this episode. And they have kind of the whole season in their head. And you're working really closely with the editor to tell that story, to like give them network notes and things like that.
Yeah. Your answer just made me think of a question. So this is a me question. How do producers get flashbacks? Like, how do they remember what to go back to a million years ago? I'm assuming if it's the same person, what if they leave? What if they don't work there anymore? Who remembers this stuff? It's like magic to me.
Yeah. I mean, it is all, there's like, they get everything transcribed. So there's, transcriptions of everything. They store all the footage in the same place. And then even if the producers have all moved on, there might be a network exec who's been on the show a really long time, or even just, a assistant editor who's been on the show a really long time and is like, oh, by the way, I remembered we have this clip here if you want to put it in. Like, it could be anyone who remembers it, or if someone was even watching the show at that time and is now working on it, they're like, oh, I remembered this one clip. Like, that would be fun to bring in here. So it really can come from anyone.
Wow, so cool. What sorts of background checks, if any, are done on? Sorry, if any made me laugh. Are done on cast members? Like, is it like debt, employment history, assets, legal history? What is done on them?
I think it depends on the show. But there is, depending on what level of vulnerability they're going to be in. But they do background checks and they do psych evals, which I know everyone is like, how does that happen? But you do generally have to have them all psych evals. And I think the level of background check, I wonder how it is different for marriage shows, actually, which I don't know the answer to, because they're in this legally, especially Married at First Sight, we're in this legally binding contract. Like, do they need to make sure? I don't know. Actually, I really don't know the answer to that. But everyone is background checked and psych evals before they go on set.
Yeah, and some of my listeners are jaded because MAFS, the Dallas season, on the way to the honeymoon, a bride got arrested. So,
Oh, gosh. Whoopsie poopsie. That's an oopsie.
And it's like, how did we miss this? Why was this not realized during the background check?
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
Yikes.
What kind of discussions go on around who will be a villain in a reality show? And how much does the edit shape the villain versus their actions on average? I really love this question.
That's a great question. I look at it as like we could shape anyone to be a villain, right? We could take like, we could take anything you say in an interview, and chop it up and make you look terrible. That's absolutely possible. But it's often really hard, and you need the scene work to back up whatever anyone's saying in an interview. So, I could take any interview and cut it up and make them say this terrible thing. But if there's nothing to back that up with them doing that with the other cast, then it's not really a good story to tell. So we don't decide, close our eyes and go, this person's going to be the villain, and that's the way it is. We are, in most cases, really leaning into what their behavior is and how it's being taken by the other cast. So when someone's repeatedly awful and you're watching that, like, then you're like, okay, this guy's, he's not going to get a good edit. He's not looking so good. We're going to lean into that. Like Chris on this last season of Love is Blind. Very clearly they were like, this guy's a mess. He's not great. But they didn't at the beginning decide he was going to be a villain. He just kept showing villainous behavior, and they leaned into that in the edit and made sure that we saw all of that for what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say this, like you have to provide the material
exactly
for them to make that, happen.
Exactly.
Okay. The final listener question is, how much accuracy was there in the show on Real? Is that really how they produce content?
A lot of it was really over exaggerated. And I think that show was tough because it was created by someone who had worked on The Bachelor. So I think it got a lot more credit than it probably should have.
Oh, I know.
No, totally. And there are parts of it I saw where I'm like, that's, I understand how that, that probably did happen. But for the most part, and I was actually rewatching it on the podcast for a little bit because it was so interesting to rewatch with now having worked in it, because I hadn't really worked in it when it was on the air. And a lot of it is really, really over exaggerated. Yeah, I think people want to believe that producers are this crazy, extra malicious, evil people. And I'm like, no, they're all you would like all of them. They're really nice. They like working with real people. They want to tell cool stories. They not sitting at a desk 9 to 5. They're not these psychological warfare, insane people who have these crazy agendas. They really are, for the most part, have nice families and just want to go home at the end of the day. And yeah.
But do you understand why people think that?
Of course. Oh my God, of course.
Okay.
Of course. I totally get that. And I do think, they are humans and humans make mistakes. And when there are producers who have made huge oversights in really bad situations, and I do think should be held accountable along with the production company and network that put them in those positions to make that happen. Yeah. So I do totally understand that side as well.
Okay. Before I let you go, could you share with us the most fun thing about being a reality TV producer and the least fun thing about being a reality TV producer?
Yes. The most fun for me was getting to travel a lot, and getting paid while traveling is very fun. Getting to work with real people is very fun. I really genuinely loved so much of the cast I worked with, and getting to help them tell these stories that I knew would change their lives for the better was so fun. And I really loved being a part of that and being welcomed into their lives so vulnerably. So that part is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
The worst part was just boring logistics stuff, honestly. I felt like I wasn't working on shows that were morally gray by the end, but it was just that your base day is 12 hours and you're often working before and after that to make sure the cast have what they need for the next day. So it's just really grueling. And it's almost all freelance work. So you don't know when the next job is coming. You don't know if you need to take the show that's going to put you on the road in the middle of nowhere when you don't want to go and you want to stay with your family. So that part of it becomes really challenging, especially as I got older and wanted to prioritize different things. That became really tough for me. And you hand over your lives to these shows. I missed a wedding once because they wouldn't let me leave. That part of it's really tough.
Yeah, I can imagine when we are watching a scene that's, Christmas, that's a holiday and there are people there that have to film that. So
Salt Lake City, when they were all having the Mother's Day meltdown, I was like, there's 40 people with you guys who also all have mothers, and they're spending them away from their moms also. So yeah, it's definitely that part also.
Yeah, think 90 Day Fiance. They have to go to all these different countries and different places for God knows how long. So yeah. Well, this was so much fun, Liv. I'm hoping I can convince you to come back and answer more questions for this. Before we go, can you share with people where they can find you?
Yes, I'm on Instagram and TikTok at It's Live on Air, and then I have a podcast. That should be on all your favorite podcast platforms where we talk about all of this and so much more. So come check me out there if you found any of this interesting. And we do lots of deep dives over there.
Yes, and I'll link it also in the show notes for you guys to check it out. So you guys know where to find me. It is Alta Call MAFS on all of the platforms. Please give me a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and stay subscribed so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Until next time, thank you for coming and joining me, Liv.
Thanks so much for having me.
Bye, guys.